Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
The subject line just said her name, Amy. No wedding update, no thanks for the deposit, nothing. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a lukewarm cup of coffee when it came through. Figured it might be something about seating arrangements or the DJ. We'd just wired over $28,000 for the venue and photographer last week. I opened it, read it twice before I really understood what it said. Hi, Dad. I wanted to let you know we've decided to keep the ceremony small. Andrew's parents are hosting and they want it intimate, just immediate family. We'll send you the live stream link, though. LL, that was it, no thank you. That was it. No, thank. No, I'm sorry, just LOL, like it was a joke. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hand gripped the edge of the table. I thought of her as a toddler with scraped knees and tangled pigtails, crying because her balloon flew away. I thought of the years of soccer practice and late-night pickup runs, of how her mom used to say, "She'll never forget what you do for her." Well, maybe she forgot, or maybe she never cared. I typed 4 words in response. Sure, enjoy your big day, hit send, close the laptop, then just sat there in silence like someone had pulled a plug out of me. It wasn't just the money, though yeah, it hurt, knowing I'd fronted almost 30 grand only to get disinvited. It was that she didn't even hesitate. Amy had always been stubborn, always chasing something bigger, flashier. I used to admire that. But this wasn't ambition. This was cold. And the worst part? She didn't even think I'd be upset. LOL. Like I'd just laugh and watch her wedding through a webcam. Like I hadn't raised her. Like I hadn't paid for her dance classes, her braces, her tuition, her first apartment. Like I wasn't her father. I got up and rinsed out my coffee cup, hands shaking a little. I stared out the window at the empty backyard where she used to run through the sprinkler in her pajamas. I thought about texting my son, Luke, but what would I say? Your sister cut me out, again. Instead, I sat back down, stared at my inbox, and waited for the next wave to hit, because I knew it would. The next morning, I got up like I always did. Alarm at 5:45, 2 slices of toast, black coffee, out the door by 6:20. I didn't feel anything. Not angry, not sad, just flat. Like something inside me had finally given out and no one noticed the noise. The car was cold when I got in, even though it was already June. I sat in the driver's seat for a while before starting the engine. Just watched the streetlights flicker off one by one. The silence felt heavier than usual. On the way to work, I didn't put on the radio like I normally did. No oldies station, no talk show, just the sound of the engine and the low whir of the tires on pavement. At a stoplight, I caught myself thinking about Amy's 5th birthday, the one with the magician in the backyard. She'd screamed with laughter when he pulled a dove out of his sleeve. I had to carry her to bed that night because she refused to take off the glittery princess dress. And now she wanted me to watch her wedding through a live stream. LOL. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and tried to shake the memory. But they kept coming. All the years I worked double shifts at the freight dispatch office so we could afford her college. The 2 years she lived off campus and couldn't make rent. Guess who covered it without question? The therapist bills during her junior year when she had that rough patch. Never once complained. Never once asked her to pay me back. I remember once she said, "You're my rock, Dad." That was right after her mom died. That was about 10 years ago. After the funeral, it was just me, Amy, and Luke. I did my best. Maybe it wasn't perfect. Dinner was usually from the freezer section, and I never got the hang of folding fitted sheets. But I showed up. Every single time. Pulled into the dispatch yard right on time, 7:03 a.m. parked in the usual spot, same cracked parking line, same oil stain under the light post. I walked inside and gave Cheryl at the front desk a small nod. She asked if I had a good weekend. I told her it was quiet. That was the truth in a way. I sat at my desk and logged into the system. Routes, schedules, delays. I stared at the screen, going through the motions, but my head was somewhere else. Every keystroke felt like pretending. Around 10, my coworker Rick passed by. "Hey, everything good?" he asked, pausing with a half-eaten muffin in his hand. I looked up, thought about saying something, anything, but what could I even say? My daughter cut me out of her wedding after I paid for it, so I just nodded. "Yeah, all good." He gave a slow, skeptical kind of smile and moved on, but I saw it. That flicker in his eyes, like he knew something was off. And maybe that was the moment it really sank in. I wasn't okay. I wasn't bouncing back from this like I normally did, because this wasn't a broken pipe or a missed birthday. This was betrayal, plain and sharp. And for the first time in my life, I started to wonder, had I been nothing but a checkbook with a name this whole time? I didn't go straight home after work that night. Instead, I pulled into the First Pacific Bank parking lot around 5:40 p.m. They closed at 6, but the lights were still on. I sat in the car for a moment, watching the windows glow against the darkening sky. My fingers tapped the steering wheel, slow and steady. I wasn't even sure what I was about to do, but my feet moved anyway. Daniel, the branch manager, spotted me as I walked in. We'd known each other for years, not friends exactly, but familiar enough. I'd shaken his hand when I refinanced the house after my wife passed. He always wore the same tie, navy with small white dots. "Evening, Mr. Whitaker," he said with a polite smile. "Need help with something?" I stepped up to the counter and slid my ID and account number across. "I need to cancel a wire transfer." He blinked. "You mean the wedding transfer?" I nodded. "The second one, $45,000. His eyebrows lifted slightly, just for a second before his face went neutral again. "That's scheduled for Thursday." "Cancel it," I said. He hesitated. "There may be a small cancellation fee, and I'll have to file a reversal form." "I don't care," I cut in. "Has it gone through yet?" He glanced at the screen. "No, still pending." Then he paused. "Lucky timing." I stared at the plexiglass divider between us. "Yeah, lucky." He slid a form toward me. I signed it without reading the fine print. My hand didn't even shake. When I was done, I pushed the pen back and stepped away. "You sure about this?" Daniel asked gently. "Dead sure." I turned without another word, walked back through the lobby, past the potted plant by the brochure stand, and out into the warm dusk air. I didn't look back, didn't wait for a receipt. Something shifted in me as the door closed behind me. Not loud, not dramatic, just solid, like a foundation settling into the ground. That $45,000 wasn't just money, it was the final payment, the keystone, the thing holding up the entire wedding structure. The venue, the dress, the flowers, the band, all of it, and I had been expected to pay it, quietly, without thanks, without even a seat at the damn ceremony, but not anymore. I got into my car and rolled down the windows. The air smelled like freshly cut grass. Somewhere nearby, a sprinkler hissed to life. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just felt calm. I had spent decades pouring money, time, and pieces of myself into being a good father, a steady one, a man who never made waves. But tonight, I pulled the plug. No speeches, no confrontation, just one signature on a form and a quiet walk out the door. Let them figure out the rest, because I was done being silent while they took everything. I got home to 12 missed calls, 11 from Amy, 1 from Luke. I didn't check the voicemails, didn't read the texts either. Just dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and stood there in the hallway, staring at the wall like it might explain something. I was heating up leftover chili when the knock came. Firm, not frantic, familiar. I opened the door, and there was Luke, dress shirt wrinkled, tie half loosened, looking like he'd come straight from the office without stopping to breathe. He didn't even say hi. "She's losing it," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. I leaned against the doorframe. "You hungry?" "No," he said. "I'm not here to eat." He dropped his bag by the couch and ran a hand through his hair. "Amy called me 6 times today. Andrew's parents are furious. The venue says they'll cancel if the final payment doesn't clear by Friday." I walked to the kitchen and stirred the pot. "I know." Luke followed me, standing in the doorway like he wasn't sure if he should sit or yell. "You canceled the wire?" "Yeah," I said. "I did." He blinked. "Just like that?" I shrugged. "Just like that." There was a long pause. "You're her father," he said, like that was supposed to mean something. "You're supposed to help." I turned off the burner. Let the silence fill the room. "I did help," I said quietly. "I gave her $28,000 already. That paid for the venue deposit, the photographer, the save the dates. Half the wedding is mine, even if I won't be there to see it." Luke's mouth opened, then shut again. He didn't have a comeback for that. I could see him working through it, trying to find some logic that made me the bad guy. "You don't think this is extreme?" he finally asked. "Just pulling the rug out from under her?" "She pulled it first," I said. "She disinvited me, Luke. Sent me a live stream link like I was a cousin in Nebraska. Like I hadn't been there for every scraped knee and exam panic and midnight crying spell." He looked down at the floor. "She said Andrew's family wanted to keep it small," he muttered. I raised an eyebrow. "You believe that?" He didn't answer. "Look," I said. "If she'd come to me and said, 'Dad, it's complicated, but we'll find a way to include you,' I would have swallowed my pride. I would have stood in the back and smiled and written the damn check. But she didn't. She cut me out. And now that the money's gone, suddenly I'm needed again. She's panicking, Luke said. I'm not, I replied. He sat down at the table, rubbing his temples. You know they can't pull this off without the second payment, right? Everything falls apart. Then maybe it should. That came out colder than I meant it to, but I didn't take it back. Luke looked at me for a long time. You're really not going to help. No, I said. Not this time. He let out a breath, like someone trying to decide if they should be angry or just disappointed. Okay, he said, standing. I guess I'll let her know. He walked to the door, hesitated with his hand on the knob. You sure you want this to be the hill you die on? I looked him in the eye. It's not a hill, it's a line, and I'm finally drawing it. Luke didn't argue. He just left. And when the door clicked shut behind him, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Solid, like I wasn't the one being walked on anymore. I woke up at 6:12 a.m. to the sound of my phone buzzing against the nightstand. 32 missed calls, a dozen text messages, all from Amy. The venue is pulling out. Andrew's family is freaking out. Dad, please, you're ruining everything. Somewhere between line 3 and 4, I stopped reading. I set the phone face down and got out of bed, poured myself a cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table in my robe, the early morning sun bleeding through the blinds. She wasn't calling to say sorry. She was calling because things were falling apart, and she didn't know what to do without her safety net. By the time I got to work, there was another email. Subject, please don't ruin my wedding. No greeting, no apology. Just paragraph after paragraph about the catering deposit, the stress her future in-laws were under, how disappointed everyone was. It ended with this. We might reconsider letting you attend, but only if the funds come through. I read that line 5 times. Might reconsider letting me attend. After I already paid $28,000. After I got disinvited in the first place. My jaw clenched, but I didn't reply. Didn't forward it. Didn't delete it either. I left it sitting in my inbox like a rotten fruit. Something I could look at when I needed to remind myself why I was doing this. Rick, my coworker, poked his head into my office around noon. Hey, you good? I nodded. Yeah, just tired. He gave me a look, the kind people give when they know it's more than just a bad night's sleep, but didn't push. Just said lunch later and walked off. I minimized the email and got back to the shipping schedule, but I couldn't focus. My thoughts kept drifting back to that sentence, that insult dressed up as an invitation. We might reconsider. It wasn't a wedding anymore. It was a transaction, an ultimatum. They only wanted me there if the check cleared. My presence wasn't meaningful. It was a bargaining chip. I tried to imagine her in her wedding dress, texting me in the back room of the venue. Money came through. You can come now. Like I was a delivery guy dropping off cash instead of a father who spent 28 years raising her. I didn't cry, I didn't throw anything, but I sat back in my chair and let the ache settle in. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting even. It was about seeing clearly, maybe for the first time in decades. My daughter didn't want me. She wanted what I could give. And once that stopped, the door slammed shut. Except now, with everything unraveling, she cracked it open again. Not because she missed me, but because she missed the money. And you know what? That hurt more than the disinvite ever did. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Amy, please, just pay it. We'll figure things out later. I didn't reply. Because for the first time in my life, silence felt like the most honest thing I could say. Rick asked me to lunch the next day. I almost turned him down. Come on, he said, standing by my desk with his car keys already in hand. You look like a guy who needs pasta more than emails. I gave a weak chuckle. I've got a lot to do. Rick tilted his head. You've had a lot to do for the last 10 years. One lunch won't break the world. So I went. We drove to a little Italian place down the block. Nothing fancy. Red checkered tablecloths, breadsticks in a basket, and the kind of lasagna that sticks to your ribs. Rick didn't talk much at first, which was fine by me. I didn't have a lot to say. We ordered, sat, waited. Halfway through his first bite of lasagna, Rick finally spoke. So, he said casually, you gonna tell me what's got you looking like someone flattened your dog? I hesitated, fork halfway to my mouth. He shrugged. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. Just figured I'd ask. I set the fork down, looked at my hands. Then for some reason I still don't quite understand, I told him everything. The email, the live stream invite, the money, the silence, the texts, the nerve of that last message. We might reconsider letting you attend. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rant. I just told it, like it was someone else's story. Rick didn't interrupt once. He just listened, chewing slowly, nodding here and there. When I finally stopped talking, he sat back in his chair and wiped his mouth with a napkin. "You know what that sounds like to me?" he said. "Sounds like you loved someone way past the point they deserved." I blinked. He sipped his water. "That's not a knock on you, man. That's actually one of the best things someone can do, but it'll eat you up if you don't draw a line." I stared at him, something behind my chest loosening just a little. Rick leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Sometimes love means drawing a line, especially with the ones you gave the most to. Otherwise, you're not helping. You're just feeding the fire." I nodded slowly. "She said they might let me come, if I paid." Rick raised his eyebrows. Jesus. We sat in silence for a minute. My lasagna was getting cold, but I didn't care. I expected advice, maybe even pity, but Rick didn't give me either. He just gave me space. And that did something for me I didn't know I needed. "I didn't cry," I said quietly. "I thought I would." "You don't need to cry to grieve," he said. "You already buried something. Might just take a while to realize what it was." That stuck with me. I finished my lunch in peace. Rick paid the check without saying anything about it. And when we got back to the office, I sat down at my desk and felt calm. Not better, not fixed, just calm. And for once, that was enough. That night, just after 9, I was rinsing off a plate when I saw someone sitting on my front steps. At first, I thought maybe Luke had come back. Maybe Amy sent him again. But as I opened the door and stepped onto the porch, I realized it wasn't family. It was Jamie. She stood up when she saw me. Same soft brown eyes, same shy smile. Her hair was longer now, but everything else was exactly as I remembered. "Hi, Mr. Whitaker," she said. "It's been a long time." "About 15 years," I said, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "You still like blueberry pancakes?" She smiled. "Always." Jamie used to be a fixture in our house. Amy's best friend from the 2nd grade all the way through high school. She was around so often we called her our part-time daughter. Every Sunday morning I'd make pancakes for them while they watched cartoons in the living room, still half asleep under fleece blankets. I gestured for her to sit on the porch swing. She did. I took the other end. "I heard," she said gently, "about the wedding." I didn't respond, just let the wood creak beneath us. "She's a mess," Jamie continued. "They're scrambling. Andrew's parents are threatening to cancel everything unless the venue gets paid by Friday. She's trying to hold it together, but it's not going well." I nodded slowly. "She told me I'd be able to attend, if I paid." Jamie winced. "Yeah, I saw that email." I turned to her. "You saw it?" She nodded. "She asked me to help write it. Said maybe it would sound better coming from someone who wasn't angry." My stomach twisted. "So this is a peace mission?" She shook her head. "No, not exactly." She looked down at her hands, folding and unfolding them in her lap. "I told her not to send it. Told her it was cruel, that she was making everything worse." I watched her closely. Jamie had always been honest. Even as a kid, she couldn't keep a lie going more than 10 seconds. She looked up again. "I came here because I wanted to ask, is there anything Amy can do to fix this?" I didn't speak right away. The wind shifted slightly, brushing past us like it didn't want to get in the middle. "Not this time," I said finally. Jamie blinked, her expression falling. "You mean that?" I nodded. "I've spent my whole life giving, fixing, paying, forgiving. I always thought that's what love was. But now I think maybe love also means saying enough." She looked down again. "I'm sorry." "I know," I said. "You're not the one who needs to be." Jamie stood up. For a second, I thought she might say something else. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a tiny, folded-up piece of paper. She handed it to me. I opened it. A drawing. Crude, childish lines. 2 little girls at a breakfast table. A man with a spatula. A plate of pancakes in the middle. "I drew that when I was 8, she said. "Amy made fun of it, but you taped it to the fridge anyway." I smiled for the first time all day. "Still have it in a drawer." Jamie stepped off the porch. "She doesn't deserve you," she said softly. I didn't argue, and I didn't watch her walk away, because that wasn't the moment that mattered. The moment that mattered was when I told someone, finally, that the line had been crossed, and I meant it. Luke told me a few days later that the big wedding didn't happen. "They scrapped the whole thing," he said over the phone. "Andrew's parents refused to front the rest. The venue gave the slot to another couple. They ended up doing something in the backyard." I pictured it, cheap folding chairs, a Bluetooth speaker in place of a band. Maybe someone's uncle grilling burgers in the corner. 15 people standing around pretending it was still special. "Wasn't invited," I said. Luke paused. "I know." I didn't say anything else, and neither did he. I spent the day doing errands, Picked up oil filters, cleaned out the shed, made myself a sandwich for dinner. Nothing profound, nothing dramatic. Around 10 that night, I saw the email from Amy. Subject, I don't know what to say. I hovered over it for a while before opening it. There was no attachment, just a wall of text. Dad, I've been trying to find the right words, but I don't know how to begin. I know I hurt you. I didn't mean for things to go this way. Everything spiraled. Andrew's parents had opinions. I felt caught in the middle. I know it wasn't fair, asking for your help and then pushing you out. I see that now. I just wanted one perfect day, but I messed that up. And I'm sorry, I really am. We had the wedding in the backyard. It wasn't what I dreamed of, but it was something. I kept thinking about you, how much you did for me, how much I took for granted. I don't blame you for pulling the money. I probably would have done the same. I hope someday we can talk, maybe fix this. I miss you. Love, Amy. I read it twice, then a third time. Half apology, half excuse. Andrew's parents had opinions. I felt caught in the middle. It wasn't what I dreamed of. Not once did she say, I should have invited you anyway. Not once did she say, you deserve to be there. It was all just fallout management, a soft spin on a hard truth. I didn't reply. I didn't rage or type out some righteous lecture. I archived the email. That was all. Because by then, something had shifted in me. The kind of shift that doesn't come with fireworks or final showdowns, just a quiet reordering of priorities. I'd spent too many years thinking forgiveness meant resetting the clock, letting things go, hoping people would change if I just stayed patient enough. But sometimes the most honest thing you can do is nothing. Amy wanted to patch the hole, not repair the foundation. She wanted peace only after the collapse, and I was tired of fixing things I didn't break. That night I made myself a cup of tea, sat on the porch, watched the sky for stars I used to point out to her when she was a kid. She wasn't looking anymore, and that was okay. Because for the first time, I wasn't waiting for the door to swing back open. I was already walking away. A month after the wedding that wasn't, I signed up for a woodworking class at the community center. Something about the flyer caught my eye while I was picking up groceries. Big red letters, beginner's welcome. It had been decades since I held a chisel, but I remembered building a birdhouse with Amy when she was 7. She cried when it tilted sideways. I told her it was still perfect. She didn't believe me. That was a long time ago. The first night of class, I almost didn't go. Sat in the parking lot, engine running. Thought about turning around, but I didn't. The instructor's name was Mitch, retired contractor. Wore overalls, smelled like cedar. The group was a mix. A couple of younger guys trying to escape their screens. One retired school teacher. A woman who had just gone through a divorce and wanted to make something no one could take. It felt good. Holding tools again. Watching rough wood turn into something useful. Something clean. On Sundays, I started grabbing coffee with a few guys from Dispatch. Rick, obviously. He invited me to a little diner that does bottomless refills and pancakes the size of dinner plates. Turns out he's been doing it for years. Never thought to ask if you'd come, he said. You always seemed too busy. I was. Busy waiting for phone calls that never came. Busy wiring money. Busy swallowing disappointment and calling it love. Not anymore. Now I eat slow breakfasts. I take real lunch breaks at work instead of eating over spreadsheets. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. No more waiting for Amy's name to light up the screen. I haven't blocked her. I'm not angry. I'm just done carrying the weight of people who only remember me when things fall apart. I still live in the same house, still go to the same job, but something's different. The silence doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels earned. Last weekend I built a bookshelf. Took me 8 hours and one busted thumb, but it's solid. It's mine. And every time I walk past it, I think, I built this. With my own 2 hands. No conditions. No expectations. Just me. Living my life, finally.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.